Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Dallas Mavericks needed Game 3 just to show they would not lay down in the series. The Boston Celtics, on the other hand, were playing with house money, and basketball said goodbye to the logo.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
It was getting to be desperation time for the Dallas Mavericks, down 0-2 in the NBA Finals. Kristaps Porzingis announced shortly before Game 3 would not be playing. Luka and Kyrie come out on a heater, and they couldn't sustain it. Boston in the third quarter, a 35-19 run in the third quarter, and even a furious comeback in the fourth quarter. Not enough, a 106-99 loss, and now a 3-0 deficit in the NBA Finals. Nick Angstadt in Dallas in the arena. And Nick, what was it about what Dallas was doing that they did not end up being able to sustain?
Dallas, to start this game, attacked the rim over and over and over again, just mercilessly attacking the rim. They were up 25-12, 13 points, and of those 25 points, 18 of them were in the paint. They were just over and over again attacking. And Luka eventually just ran out of steam in multiple ways. He was getting attacked on defense over and over again, which you would expect. He was attacking on offense over and over again, which they needed desperately. And then the injuries are just mounting up for him. And between those three things, you go, man, he just didn't have enough. And you saw him foul out at the end of this game. And they were all frustration fouls. And that's what that couldn't sustain, is that Luka and Kyrie, Kid has said multiple times this season, they are the scheme. Those two players are our offensive scheme. Like, it's on those two guys. And when you have two guys that can dribble against a defense that can switch all over the place, it is very hard to get anything productive done.
Yeah, and look, these two players, you know, they took 28 and 27 shots. They scored 35, 27 points. Like, they were the offense. You do need something from Maxi Kleber, who goes 0 for 2. You need something from Tim Hardaway Jr., who goes 0 for 5. And that is usually generated from those guys. Like, was there more on the table to be done from those bench players besides just make shots?
I mean, yes. The problem was Jason Kidd didn't know what was coming from any of those bench players, because I think he coached like a coach that didn't think they were anywhere close to winning in Game 2. If he thought that in Game 2, all right, we're kind of close, let's just go out there, fix a couple of things, adjust a couple of things. Instead, he goes, honestly, kind of panic mode, rotation mode. In the NBA Finals, you should not be playing 11 players and not know who your top 8 guys are. And some of that, to defend Jason Kidd for a second here, some of that is because some of these guys have not been ready for this moment. Right, they come out, they're young, or they're inexperienced, or they have struggled against this matchup or whatever, and you go, all right, Josh Green, Maxey, Tim Hardaway at times, Jaden Hardy, Derrick Jones Jr. now apparently he played 15 minutes, he played 5 minutes in the second half total in this one, and I think the kid wanted to go for more spacing, so he plays Tim Hardaway a little bit more. He tries to space him out just a little, but instead you just are looking like you're panicking, and you're throwing out all these guys. You're playing 11 guys, and it looked like a team that said, all right, we need to throw some ish against the wall, instead of a team that was like, all right, we were close to winning in game 2. Let's just get a good game from Kyrie, and we win Game 3. That is not what happened.
In the first half, it seemed like everything was going right for Dallas. They were getting the scoring that they needed from their two best players. They were out rebounding the Celtics. They were out shooting the Celtics, and they were up 1 point. And that was the point where I went, uh-oh. Does it just feel like this is an unsolvable problem at this point for Dallas?
Well, no team has come back from down 3-0, Peter. So I guess, yeah. I mean, it's, no one has solved it up until now. So unless you're getting Matt Damon's character coming through and to solve the problem on the chalkboard, like I don't think that's happening because of all the issues that we mentioned before. This Celtics team is a bad matchup against the Mavericks, and it's worse than I even expected it to be at this point. And Luka and his play and Kyrie and his play usually cover a lot of your deficiencies. They're able to overcome. They're able to pass guys open. They're able to, score against anybody in front of them. And they did score against pretty much anybody in front of them in this one, but they didn't create enough for everybody else. They've got to score themselves and create for the other guys. They are the scheme. Jason Kidd has said this multiple times. And so Yeah, they Celtics are a specific matchup, and they're a very well-constructed team. I mean, they just have multiple guys that can do a lot of things on offense. Tatum and Brown are not really asked to do all that much compared to what Luka and Kyrie are asked to do on their teams. And so then all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, now we need to get those two guys going. Jaylen Brown get going in the third quarter, and then he can, and they go out to a 35-19 lead in that, or 35-19 stretch in that third quarter. Just like the Mavs just didn't have enough and couldn't match what the Celtics could bring.
And that right now is the story of this series. The Mavs just didn't have enough and couldn't match what the Celtics could bring. We'll see if they can make history. The short turnaround time, is there anything there? Like no KP probably again. There's some wonder now, like if he could come back at all, or is this just like fait accompli?
If you're going off of vibes and if you're going off of how the team played and how they ended this game, they did make a little bit of a run. They cut it to 1 at one point, but this looked like a team that knew, all right, we're overmatched. I thought the coaching looked like that he thought that the team was overmatched by playing a bunch of different guys and trying a bunch of things. Tim Hardaway had not played a minute in game 1 or 2, and then he comes out and plays almost 20 minutes in game 3. Like that, it's just wild to me. It's happened a couple times maybe with in NBA history where a guy just comes out of nowhere, but this team does not look like they're a team that believes. And Luka's famous quote from the 2020 bubble, if you don't believe, you shouldn't be here. It doesn't look like a team that believes right now.
Stay up to date all year on the Dallas Mavericks by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Mavericks on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, the Celtics were playing with house money on Wednesday. Before we get to that, the Vikings' initial depth chart does not have J.J. McCarthy at the top of the list. Game Time makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets from football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section in a row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets. You may only have one more shot at it. With Game Time, download the free app and new users can get $20 off their first purchase with code Locked On. Terms apply. That's code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed. If you're catching this episode of Locked On Sports Today after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. As the Vikings began mandatory minicamp, it was Sam Darnold, not J.J. McCarthy, atop the depth chart at quarterback. Could this fuel a rumored holdout that McCarthy is mulling for his rookie contract? As Luke Braun points out on Locked On Vikings, there is one factor fueling the holdout rumors.
In the last few years, especially since the 2020 CBA was negotiated, top 3-4 picks and quarterbacks have been successful at persuading the team that drafted them to give them the signing bonus all in one go. Trevor Lawrence got that, and then Zach Wilson and Trey Lance kind of did the same thing, where those rookie deals a couple years ago went all the way up to the end of or to the beginning of training camp. And I think Trey Lance signed his like the day before camp opened, and he got the fully guaranteed thing. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen here, where J.J. McCarthy's rookie contract gets signed the day before camp, and then we never talk about it again.
Aaron Rodgers was absent from the start of Jets' mandatory minicamp in what was called an unexcused absence. Robert Saleh assured everyone that there is no distraction, and he sees it as a golden opportunity for Tyrod Taylor.
For Aaron, being he's been here the entire offseason program, which has been great. This is a great opportunity, too, for Tyrod to get reps with the ones over the next couple of days. But as far as Aaron, I mean, he's been in the league for a while. He's played at a very high level. I think it'll be more beneficial for Tyrod than a loss for Aaron, if that makes sense.
This feels like really pushing the boundaries of, hey, I've got a new job, and so let me try and get some free PTO by saying I planned my vacation already. But look, Aaron Rodgers, maybe he had a non-refundable vacation stay that he had to take. And the Minnesota Twins scored how many runs to beat the Rockies?
Okay, man. Twins trying to take the series versus Colorado today. You got Pablo Lopez on the mound, game 3. He goes 5 innings, 5 hits, 5 Ks, 2 earned. More on his day here in a minute, because today's a topic is all about the offense, man. Twins bats busted out in a big way in this one. 5 runs in the first inning to start things off. Carlos Santana with a bases clearing double. That makes it 5-1. 3 more in the 4th inning to make it 8-2. Willie Castro with a solo shot. Carlos Correa with an RBI single that inning. That guy was fantastic today. He was just automatic. 5 for 5 today with 5 straight singles. And then 6th inning, Royce Lewis. Are you kidding me with this guy, man? 5th homer of the year. Puts it in the second deck off a first pitch splitter. That makes it 10-3. Rockies, though, they wouldn't go away. 2 in the 7th, 2 more in the 8th off Okert and Thielbar, who, remember, he had a really rough night last night as well. So they send in Duran an inning early for damage control. He gets the job done. And then the Twins, bottom 8, make up for some lost time. They score 7 more in the 8th, and that was all she wrote. Twins win game 3. They take the series 36-32 on the year now.
On the diamond, a big night for Jeimer Candelario fueled the Cincinnati Reds past the Cleveland Guardians.
The Candy Man can. What's up? This is Jeff Carr from the Locked On Reds podcast, and Jeimer Candelario is absolutely on fire. I mean, we are talking about the surface of the sun with how hot his bat is right now. 2 homers, 4 RBIs. He gets all of the runs batted in the Reds series, 2-game series, splitting win with the Cleveland Guardians on Wednesday night. That was a fantastic performance by him. Nick Lodolo pitched around some base runners. Not the most perfect start, but he kept the scoreboard relatively clean. And then the bullpen just shut the doors on this game. Sam Maul, Lucas Sims, and Alexis Diaz all pitching clean innings. You'll love to see it. Now the Brewers are up next.
Up 2-0, headed to Dallas. No Kristaps Porzingis. It would have been human nature for the Boston Celtics to take their foot off the gas. And in the first half, maybe they did, at least in the first quarter. Then a monster third quarter, and the Celtics pull away, and then don't pull away, and then ultimately win against the Dallas Mavericks. They now have the famous, the infamous, the 3-0 finals lead, the insurmountable lead in the NBA Finals, at least according to history. John Corrales, who has never found a challenge insurmountable, over at Locked On Celtics. He's in the arena for us. And John, what was it in the third quarter that seemed to set off with Boston?
I think the Celtics were kind of on the verge of that kind of performance for a lot of the first half. They were just a couple of missed reads, a couple of settling for jumpers. If you felt like, almost like if you just dialed it in a little bit, they were like right there. And then in the third quarter, they came out and they were doing that right away. They kind of knew where they wanted to get the ball. They had that Mavericks defense on a string, and it was just the kind of execution that you're used to seeing from the Boston Celtics. And talking to people around here at halftime, down 1, a lot of Celtics people felt really good taking that huge monster hit from the Mavs. They're like, God, if you just get Jalen just kind of wakes up a little bit, if Derek White can just wake up a little bit, we'll be good. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown woke up on the face of 4 different Mavericks on the way to the rim in the second half there, and finished the game with 30 points. He and Tatum both 30 points in this one. It was the first Tatum scoring game. What was different about Tatum in this one for you?
Look, I feel like it's just a matter of shots falling for him. I've been saying that the first couple of games for him, especially game 2, I liked the shots that he was getting. They just weren't falling, and he took a lot of the same shots. The one thing about the Celtics, it's been consistency for them, that they have played the game very similarly over the course of 3 finals games here. And the Mavs have changed things up, and the Celtics have been affected by that, and the games have looked different, but they've tried to do the same things. And I think with Tatum, Some of it was just the shot just wasn't falling. And in this game, some of those did. He was still aggressive. He was still moving the ball. And then the combination of that and Jalen kind of not settling for shots. He had 6 points at halftime, and then he just went off for 15 in the third quarter. It's all about playing the right way, according to Joe Mazzulla. Getting to where you need to go on the floor, reading the defense, and figuring out, am I scoring here or am I passing here?
Without Kristaps Porzingis, the Jays handled the burden of the scoring. But were you surprised at how effective this Boston defense remained, given how integral KP has been to what this defense can do, especially taking away lobs at the rim, things like that?
Yeah, I'm not surprised, and I don't want to sound like a jerk when I say that, but because of the process, it's been very plug and play. Now, early on when they went to Xavier Tillman, I wasn't sure if that was the move, but I'm getting to the point where I'm not going to question Joe Mazzulla about much anymore. They went to a lot more switching, and it wasn't quite as effective as it has been, but it was effective enough. But once again, the Celtics are playing maybe some of the most disciplined basketball of the season right now. They know what the game plan is, and they are sticking to it. And you're seeing Luka Doncic not being able to finish. It's the one thing we keep hearing about the Mavs, and the one thing that we've seen about the Mavs wasn't it in the Timberwolves series where they were down in the final minutes of all of those games and they came back because they had the closers. They are not closing these games. Luka is not closing out these games. Kyrie is not closing out these games. They're missing because the Celtics defensive game plan is just take the hit from Luka early. It doesn't matter if he's scoring a bunch early. Just stick with it. The offense will do its job, and by the time it comes to close the game, Luka's not going to have it. And he fouled out of the game because he was just out of position. And it's been a brilliant defensive game plan from the Celtics, and it's been executed almost perfectly. And it kind of doesn't matter who's in the game or who's out of the game at this point. They're just going to keep doing it, and they're going to dare the Mavericks. Even now in Game 4. They're going to dare the Mavericks. Like, if you're going to beat Boston in any game this series, it's going to be Luka having some sort of godlike moment down the stretch to summon some sort of energy that he hasn't been able to summon.
Stay up to date on the Boston Celtics by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Celtics on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, basketball says goodbye to the logo. Basketball lost another legend on Tuesday as Jerry West passed away. Our Locked On Lakers host Andy and Brian Kamenetsky reflect on the life of the logo.
What's funny is when you and I were just texting back and forth about how we wanted to approach talking about Jerry West, like, it dawned on me just the idea of how do you unpack a career and a life like his. It's truly one of those where do you start type questions, because there are so many different places. We could focus an entire 30 to 35 minutes on just one piece of his NBA career, whether you're talking about his time as a player with the Lakers, whether his time as an exec with the Lakers, whether you're talking about just time with the Grizzlies, time with the Warriors, like all these different elements of his career, all these different elements of his personality. And it sort of hit me that he was just this really fascinating person, Jerry West, like beyond the talent and beyond the basketball vision and the intellect and his achievements and his legacy. He was just this really compelling figure that you and I were fortunate to have spent a little bit of time around on a few occasions. And it dawned on me how fitting it was that the basketball player most, I think, commonly linked to Jerry West, and the one you always think about the most, was Kobe. Kobe was also this incredibly fascinating person that you and I got to know much, much better than West. But it he's just a really, really interesting guy to look back on what was really a very remarkable, amazing, and often, frankly, very sad life.
And finally, we mentioned yesterday that Joey Chestnut will not be competing in the Nathan's hot dog eating competition this year. While that is a significant bummer, the universe has a funny way of making things up to us. Chestnut will face off against Kobayashi for a winner take all event. Yes, that's what they're calling it, on Labor Day. The event will be streamed on Netflix. The event venue has yet to be announced. I guess all I have to say is that life just finds a way. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, will the Panthers get a third straight win in the Stanley Cup final? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.